right, it is that time once again to take a closer analytical look at the top stories in the news this week with our Powerhouse Roundtable. We have got a good one assembled for you today. Mark Caputo is the Florida correspondent for Politico, the go-to website for all things political. Mark also writes the daily Politico Florida Playbook, which is must-reading for anyone interested in politics in the Sunshine State. Our friend Rosemary O'Hara is the editorial page editor of the Sun Sentinel. It has just published a strong series of editorials on the selection process for the next chief executive of the Memorial Healthcare System in Broward. And we're glad to welcome back Henry Crespo of Miami, president of the Democratic Black Caucus of Florida and a radio host. To all of you, good morning. Lady and gentlemen.
Good to see you.
All right, Rosemary, I don't think any of us counts ourselves as experts on Haiti, but the fact that this election got postponed, I thought Gypsy Metellus made a very good point that maybe postponement was the right thing in the wake of lack of confidence in the electoral process.
Right, and I really applaud you and Channel 10 for committing the resources to help telling a story that a lot of people eyes glaze over. Corruption, dysfunction in Haiti, what's new? Sending money to Haiti, the dysfunction and our lack of confidence in what's going on down there. So yes, it sounds like pending this review by this commission, that was the right call, but I also was persuaded that let's not have a transition government, let's have an election. Right.
No, I think a transition government is exactly what they don't need.
I thought Eduardo Gamora made a good point, which is that, at a certain point they're going to have elections. And if you figure under Papa Doc and Baby Doc, this was a country that was ruled by dictators.
Yeah.
And at a certain point, with all of the dysfunction that you laid out, that was pointed out in the New York Times editorial, that's a country that's ripe for a dictatorship, if you think about it. If you don't have any faith in any of the institutions, that's the perfect time for a strong man to come and say, I will bring order, I'll bring peace, I'll bring prosperity. Just don't worry about this democracy stuff.
I do think that the conditions may be ripe for them, but I think the international community, especially in the investment that has been made following the earthquake almost exactly 6 years ago, I don't think that the international community would stand still for some kind of a strong man coming in trying to take over. What do you think, Henry?
Well, I agree with you. I think democracy is always fragile, and sometimes we see it here in the U.S. I think it's a good position that Celestine has taken from saying, hey, listen, we need a review of this October election. And in that process, we'll see how the international community responds, and we'll see what type of scrutiny will happen during the runoff. But these things happen, and in the democracy frame of it, Haiti is growing, and it will come out of this as the Haitian people are people of resilience. I believe that.
Don't give the international community too much credit. Bashar al-Assad is still in Syria. He used chemical weapons. ISIS is still running rampant. It's not as if we have a very good track record in this department.
Well, you're right.
You're right. Yes, the international community in general.
But the United Nations has been, in a way, more active in Haiti, maybe overactive if you listen to what Gypsy was saying. If we can, let's move on to something closer to home and, in a way, much more fun, which is the presidential race. And Rosemary, this week, just when you think Donald Trump can't do or say something more offensive, he did.
Yes.
I mean, after the Democratic debate and during the break, Hillary Clinton went to the bathroom and came back a little late, said sorry, it was no big deal. And then Trump says it was disgusting.
Yes, and he in his description, and let's just give that, it takes women a little longer to go to the bathroom than men. And in his description of her in running on, he said that she had been schlonged in the Democratic primary by Barack Obama. And just for the record, schlong means penis. And, that kind of, imagine for people who support Trump, who anything he says seems to be okay. They've locked down on him, they're with him, they give him a pass. But just consider that it wasn't Hillary. Consider it might have been Margaret Thatcher that he said got schlonged, or German Chancellor Angela Merkel got schlonged. Is that okay? Is that really the kind of conversation, dialogue we want from our president?
I don't. I thought that using a a Yiddish term, even though it's been sort of colloquialized in a way. I know, Mark, you said that, it's not quite as vulgar as it perhaps used to be, and yet, I mean, frankly, it is vulgar.
Well, the Trump supporters somehow did a good job of going into Nexus and finding an NPR talking head. I think it was Neil Conan, I could be wrong about that, years ago, using the verb schlonged in an election in a similar way, and they're using that as an example of saying, see, even the media uses it. I don't want to sound mercenary or completely empty, but let's face it, Donald Trump has been really great for the news media. I mean, what this guy has done for our business as far as us talking about politics and regular people being engaged, even though we're shocked and clutching our pearls, we like talking about it.
Shocked. We're just shocked. And keep the ratings coming is frankly, don't want to be sanctimonious at all about Donald Trump. He has made things interesting, but at some point, Henry,
it's a dumpster fire, basically. It's fascinating to watch.
But it's all, for me, they're trying to, the Republican Party is trying to say we are not at war with women. And yet, there are, in Marco's history on, and the Planned Parenthood thing and not letting women whose life is in danger have an abortion. And now the leading candidate calling women fat pigs and slobs and being schlonged. 54% of the voters in the last election were women. And this party continues to have a problem with how they talk about women.
Well, he's tied in Iowa, he's leading in New Hampshire, and unfortunately, the state of politics today, in the primary process, supports of Donald Trump. I'm not saying that, what he's saying is right, but he's leading in the polls nationally. He's speaking to a constituency that, we seem to be surprised about, but this guy will probably be the nominee. I mean, he's at, 46% nationally. He's at 31%. He's tied in Iowa. Now, it's going to be interesting when he goes into South Carolina and all these other states, but he's speaking to a constituency. And the people that are most motivated are going to go out to vote.
Yeah, well, I would say that's
we'll beat them at the
angry white men, for the most part, I think, are his constituency. The one thing I would agree with Mark is that people who may never have really been politically involved, he's gotten them engaged, but it's not pretty. Well, all right, hold your thought. We're going to come back with more of the Roundtable in just a minute. Welcome back. We are in the midst of a robust roundtable discussion, and let's move on to Jeb Bush and Marco Rubio. During the break, Mark Caputo made a great comment. He said, for Bush, it's like the autumn of the patriarch. And why do you say that?
Well, it's amazing to watch. This is the former Florida governor, the beloved icon of the Republican Party of Florida, who built it into a powerhouse. He's now polling in single digits consistently in his home state of Florida. He's trailing not only Marco Rubio, but Ted Cruz and Donald Trump in Florida. It's like, what happened?
Well, what did happen? I mean, why has he, look, Henry, I know you are a Democrat, but I mean, just sort of looking at it as objectively as you can.
I'll try.
Thank you. Why has Jeb Bush, why has this campaign just gone off the rails almost from the beginning?
Low energy.
You agree with Trump?
Well, I mean, look, in Florida, I disagreed with a lot of his politics, obviously, but he was a decent governor in the sense of the state of Florida. But looking at it nationally, he just didn't have what it takes. And obviously, you see it. And then, with this field of bomb throwers, from the Cruz to Christie to Trump, he just didn't fare well.
Yeah. Well, he always said, I am the adult in the room, essentially.
Right.
And, the mood, David Brooks of the New York Times, who I happen to admire a lot, he has written a number of columns, Rosemary, in which he sort of said, the American electorate right now doesn't want an adult in the room. They want a strong, assertive leader, and that's not exactly Jeb Bush.
No, for all of his strength and all of his smarts and all of his knowing the details of the policy and his experience in government, and he's a strong leader, he's been really flat-footed in this, in performing on the campaign trail, starting with when he, didn't disavow the Iraq
invasion
War.
of Iraq, yeah.
Yeah, so it's unfortunate. I think that when I look at the field, he's somebody who I might not have agreed with all of his policies, but I think he would be a good president. But the longer this field this big field stays in the race, the less his chances are. And as I said before, the threat going into Florida, the primaries, it's a winner take all. So if there's 8 candidates still in the race by then, and Donald Trump is polling at 30 or whatever it is now in Florida, he'll win the Florida primary and he'll win all of our delegates.
Yeah, if Rubio or Jeb loses Florida, they're done. But there's a good possibility that if neither of them win one of the 4 early states anyway, they're going to be done before they even get to Florida.
All right, Mark, let me ask you about Rubio, the sort of knock on Rubio this week in New Hampshire, reading the newspapers there, is that they didn't see him enough. People in New Hampshire, I've done reporting up there, they want retail politics. They want to press the flesh. They want to see these guys in person. They want to have long Q&A sessions. And to some degree, Marco Rubio hasn't run that kind of campaign.
Well, it sounds like it hasn't. Kudos to the other campaigns for pushing this narrative in the national media.
Well, Christie has,
Because what you've seen is this explosion of stories like, where's Marco Rubio? Here's the fascinating thing. Marco Rubio is the guy that's kicking your behinds, guys, in New Hampshire. While they've knocked him actually going to New Hampshire and how he's appeared, polls consistently show he's in 2nd or 3rd there, ahead of Christie and the like. So I do question some of the seriousness of this. Remember, the people you meet at town halls are the people whose political identity revolves around the fact that New Hampshire is the center of the political universe.
Yeah,
so if you don't actually show up in New Hampshire,
But where is he? I mean, because he's not in the Senate making his votes, So, and it's not just that he's missed 30% of his votes over the year. In the 3rd quarter, he missed 54% of his votes. In this quarter, he has missed 81% of his votes, including some important
Authorization Act.
Yeah. So, and he says if I don't vote, it's a vote against. So he's a vote against voting to fund the military.
Nice work.
But let me just say this.
Hold on, before we run out of time, I have read your editorials, the newspaper Sun Sentinel editorials this week, and you have been very strong about saying that the selection process for the Memorial healthcare system must be open. What's the problem?
For the last 28 years, Memorial Healthcare, a public hospital system that serves Broward and some of North Dade, has been led by CEO Frank Sacco, and great job. They've grown the number of hospitals. They've gotten good ratings from the government. They have reduced their tax rate close to 0, and yet. But he's retiring now, and in the search for a new replacement, there's this enormous controversy. 4 internal people have raised their hands and said, I'd like to do it, and a good number of the doctors and nurses and staff want an internal candidate because the place has got a great culture, best place to work. But a number of the members of the board of directors seem to be locked down on an external candidate, possibly because of the involvement of Governor Rick Scott. The problem at the moment is they hired a search firm to hire and
it's all been behind closed doors, basically.
They won't say the names.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
all right, we'll continue. I know you'll continue to look at it. All right, thank you all for coming in.
Thank you.
Thanks, Michael.
Mike, thank you.